We are here at Inner Coiffure at the 2015 Fall Atelier with the most fabulous Vivienne Mackinder. Vivienne is the founder of Hair Designer TV, one of the most iconic personalities, talents, artists in the entire global community of beauty professionals, and one of our favorite people. It's good to see you today, Vivienne.
Thank you for inviting me into this room.
We are in a room in the bowels of the Waldorf Astoria in New York. If you haven't seen Vivienne lately, you may send a search party down into the bowels of the Waldorf. We still may be here when this plays. Again, it's always great to see you. So many things we could talk about. Let's start by giving us an update on what you are up to professionally these days.
Just broke my finger and dislocated it. So doing hair is a challenge right now, but I'm still doing hair with a dodgy finger. Yeah, that was a tricky one. That's the exciting part of my life, doing hair with 4 fingers instead of 5. What am I doing? Gosh, so much. I thought by the time I got to this age I'd be working less and riding my horse more. The reverse is happening. I don't know why, but I'm doing a lot of educational events. I've been traveling a lot as well, been doing lots of fun photo shoots, and I'm working on a completely new thing for my website, Hair Designer TV, which is kind of cool, which is going to launch next year, and getting ready for some shows that I'm doing next year. And it's so lovely being here as an audience member as opposed to standing on a stage, because you get a totally different feeling. And so I've been working on some ideas that I think are quite new, that I think are going to be really kind of cool for people to see. So
we're excited. We're excited to see what you bring.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in development.
You always have a lot of things in development, and you've continuously brought great things to the industry. I was a huge fan of you. I really think a pioneer in what's happened online, and I remember early on being a guest with Hair Designer TV, on an audio program actually,
Yes.
A precursor to this one. You may
Yes.
have been the inspiration for this, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about the whole online world as it relates to hairdressers and what you think it means to hairdressers, the ability to have access to so much.
I think it's incredible, because actually when I started Hair Designer TV, there wasn't an iPad, there wasn't a Facebook, there wasn't a YouTube, there was none of those things that we now think are normal. So today, when you have a thought or a question about anything, you Google it from your phone or wherever your device is, and you find your answer so quickly. And when I think back to earlier in my career, when I was searching for an idea, I would sometimes spend $400 on magazines. I would go to these stores and buy English Vogue, French Vogue, L'Officiel. I would be buying up all these magazines, searching for something, like a crumb of an idea. And today it's so easy to just have a thought and go, boom, what is that idea? Whether you're researching a new idea for a collection or whatever it is. So it's an amazing opportunity to do that. So I think the thing is, it's like an even playing field. It's flat now. So the question is, when you look, who are you learning from? Because you want to be sure you're always learning from the best that there is. And then the second thing is applying it. Because it's one thing to watch, it's another thing to do. So applying it so that it becomes your own, and practicing it. And I know when people come onto my website on Hair Designer TV, I've categorized things into courses now, where you can do a bob course. And so there's 8 different types of bobs. And I promise you, if you do all 8, you will have a better understanding of what it takes to cut a straight line in all its variations. But the thing is, you've got to practice it. So when I think about when I cut my first bob, it was a disaster. And years passed by, and it's still a challenge. And I remember when Mark Hayes came to Hair Designer TV, and he said to me, Viv, what do you want to do? And for those of you who may not be familiar, Mark Hayes is the creative international director for Vidal Sassoons, and a genius of a man. Mm-hmm. And I said, how about doing a bob, Mark? He said, you know what? He said, it's been 30 years, but he said, I think I can now do one really well. And I thought, God, that humility is amazing. So in answer to your question, the online platform is extraordinary for learning, but it's what you do with it. and how much you're prepared to practice. And just because you see someone quickly in 3 minutes doing something that possibly took an hour to do, you know, be realistic about going out there and practicing it, because it will take you longer. And don't give up because, oh, I did it once and it didn't work. So we're making things in some ways appear easier than they are. And it tests your character and your fortitude to really knuckle down and do what it takes to be good at it, which is practice, but perfect practice.
No, that's great insight. And let me say this and ask you your thought on this. We're in New York, and to me, one of the greatest challenges in being in New York is figuring out where to go have a meal. I mean, we're surrounded by like so many options. It's insane. And I think of that in the context of what you're talking about online. And one of the challenges I think we all have online is we're surrounded by so much information, good, bad, and ugly, just like we are with food in New York City, the good, the bad, the ugly. And it's work, in spite of access, it's still work to get to the good stuff.
Yes.
And one of the challenges I see some young people having is not being able to discern the good from the bad, from the ugly.
Yes.
And you know, we hear and we see things online, especially social, you know, through commentary. And sometimes I scratch my head and say, are people focused on the right thing? Or do people have the ability or understanding how to find the right thing? So any advice for people on that?
Well, I think you've got to be aware of people's track record. There are some one-trick ponies out there that have done well with one thing. And when that one thing is no longer in fashion, where will they be? So you've got to really look at people's backgrounds. You've got to look at the quality of their work. Is it 5-star? Does it look expensive? Is it beautiful? Because we could all go out there and do something silly, but is it beautiful? So I think you've got to discern the beauty, the integrity of the person, and the why they're doing what they're doing. If it's free, there's usually a catch. When it's paid for content, someone's put their heart and soul and a lot of money into it to protect that investment, and they're taking it very, very seriously. So, you know, you can occasionally find something pretty cool with the consumer in the bathroom doing something you think, wow, that's kind of interesting how she did that, right? So that's that point. You can see a stylist in their own salon doing something that is actually quite clever, and maybe the quality of the filming, etc., may not be very good. So you have to discern at what level do you want to play. And you've got to look around through magazines, read credits, and just start to do your own research and find just a few people and focus there. Because if you're scattered, you won't really learn anything. So I think really being focused, and today, as you know, it's very tribal. So if you're living in the Aveda world, you know who Antoinette Benders is, and she's a genius. You know, and if you're living in any of the other brands, you know, you'll know that those people. So I think it's good to do that. But I also think don't get blinded, becoming too narrow in your focus that you don't know some of the other extraordinary people. And trust me, if a manufacturer is using certain talent, they've done their homework. So that's a good place to begin, isn't it?
It is. So that brings me to another point, and something I struggle with. You know, I'm not a hairdresser, but I've been doing this for an awful long time. And so I hope that over time, listening to people like you and trying to learn, that I've somehow developed a little bit of taste when it comes to beauty, but I have a long ways to go because it's not necessarily my competency. So, but talk a little bit about the importance of taste, and how does a young person in particular develop, you know, taste, if you will, and meaning you know the discernment, you know, of good versus other.
Okay, I've got a good way of describing it. If you were to go and have some French fries right now, what would you dress that with, in terms of?
Oh, I'm a salt and pepper guy.
So you put salt and pepper on it. Okay. So if I gave you strawberries, what goes well with strawberries?
Well, I'm a purist when it comes to strawberries, so nothing but my strawberry.
Oh, you wouldn't put anything with it?
Well, I might put cream.
You might put cream.
I might put I might chop them up and put some cream.
Okay, so the cream would complement the strawberries.
Absolutely.
And the salt and pepper would complement the French fries.
Absolutely.
So let's switch it around. How about if I put salt and pepper on your strawberries and I put cream on your French fries?
I would have to have you killed.
Precisely, yes. But I would go down eating them. So one completes and the other competes. So what is great taste? When it completes a look versus compete with the look. Now there are some wacky kind of personalities out there that can do something that is so juxtaposition they had the ability to make what doesn't work, but they're the exception to the rule. You can look at Betsy Johnson, she's a caricature, isn't she?
Yes.
And she makes it all work in a very brilliant way. So I think that good taste is when it completes who that person is inside and out. It makes their face shape look oval. It complements their hair texture. It fits their body type. It fits who they are when they walk into the world, because your image says who you are. Whether you like it or not, it says your level of sophistication. It says how much you care about your look, whether you just roll out of bed and just, look like a hot mess versus taking that time to plan. I mean, when I lived in London and I was a true fashion victim, which means my taste was questionable because I had to be trendy even though I had ginger hair and freckles, I would lay out my outfits the night before and make sure that everything worked beautifully. My hat, my gloves, everything had to be coordinated. And when I was at Sassoon's, people would say to me, "Oh, we can't wait to come back and see what you're wearing." It was a costume, and it was very well orchestrated. It was that important.
I love that. So we want to come back next week and talk to you about the brilliant documentary series you've done, which is I'm Not Just a Hairdresser. And so we're going to be back next week with another audio story from our favorite beauty ginger, Vivienne Mackinder.